What if ancient seeds, so tiny they could fit on your fingertip, could whisper stories that no historical record ever bothered to write down?
Yeah, right.
Imagine unlocking nearly 2 millennia of human interaction with the land, not through crumbling scrolls, but through the actual DNA of something as humble as a lentil.
Right.
Today, we're embarking on an incredible deep dive into the fascinating, really complex past of the Canary Islands and the surprising kind of enduring role these unassuming legumes played.
Mm.
Our mission, well, it's to uncover how these little powerhouses reveal some pretty surprising truths about indigenous populations, colonization, and maybe even offer clues for our agricultural future.
And for this journey, we're diving into some truly groundbreaking stuff. Our main source is this pioneering scientific paper titled Ancient DNA from Lentils, Lens culinaris, illuminates human plant culture interactions in the Canary Islands. It was just published in the Journal of Archaeological Science. And we're also drawing insights from a recent news article by Linköping University, which actually led this innovative research.
Ah,
What makes this study particularly unique, and frankly why it's such a game changer, is that it represents the first ever successful genetic analysis of archaeological lentils.
wow, the first ever.
Yeah, giving us an unprecedented window directly into their past.
Okay, let's unpack this and set the scene a bit.
Like-
Imagine the Canary Islands, but not the bustling tourist spot we know now.
Right, think way back.
Yeah, think around the 1st to 3rd century CE. These islands, strategically located just about 100 kilometers off the coast of North Africa, were settled by a Masai people, often known as Berber farmers.
From North Africa.
And these weren't just explorers looking for land, they were full-on agriculturalists. They brought with them what scientists call a crop package.
This is basically a whole agricultural starter kit, right?
Exactly. Not just random seeds. It was this carefully curated set of essential plants. And importantly, the sophisticated farming knowledge needed to establish, a thriving, settled community.
So what was in it?
We're talking staples like barley, wheat, broad beans, peas, figs, and yes, our star today, the lentil, Lens culinaris.
Okay, and a crucial detail here, I think, is that after this initial settlement, the archipelago is believed to have experienced pretty profound isolation.
Isolation, how so?
Well, they didn't just lose regular contact with the African mainland. There was also apparently very limited communication or even travel between the islands themselves.
Really? Between the islands, too?
Yeah, and this geographic isolation, it had a significant, often pretty detrimental impact on crop diversity.
Okay.
Most of the individual islands actually saw a dramatic decline in the variety of crops they were cultivating. Only Gran Canaria, it seems, managed to hold on to that full original crop package brought by the first settlers.
Which naturally makes you ask, how did they do it? How did Gran Canaria manage that?
Exactly. That's the big question.
And this is where the ingenuity of those ancient Gran Canarian farmers really comes into play. It's quite amazing. They developed this incredible solution, excavating these sophisticated silos directly into the island's porous volcanic rock.
Not just pits in the ground, then.
No, these were like natural subterranean vaults, these cave granaries, as they're called. The volcanic rock itself provided amazing natural insulation, and its ability to absorb and release moisture meant these spaces kept remarkably stable temperatures and humidity year-round.
Kind of like natural air conditioning.
Basically, yeah, perfect for long-term storage, keeping a portion of their harvest safe, sometimes for centuries, and crucially, in really prime condition.
And these aren't just historical curiosities. They are, as we'll see, the literal gold mine for scientists today,
Yeah,
providing these pristine samples.
right. The key to unlocking this whole story.
Absolutely. So if we then broaden our view, connect this to the bigger historical picture, we jump forward to the 14th and 15th centuries, a period of immense upheaval.
Right, the arrival of Europeans.
Exactly. European sailors and eventually the Hispanic conquest. This era brought massive cultural disruption, a really devastating decline in the indigenous population, conflict, disease, exploitation, the works.
Yeah.
And it transformed the islands very quickly into a major globalization hub for trade between the old and new worlds.
Okay, but what about the lentils and all this?
Well, that's what's intriguing. While the written records from this European period often mention indigenous farming practices, they notably don't mention lentils.
That's odd. A conspicuous absence.
It is. And it's led historians to speculate that maybe lentil cultivation had significantly declined, or perhaps was even lost entirely on many islands by that point.
So the question was, what actually happened to those original lentils? Were they just lost to time and conquest?
Precisely.
And this is exactly where the modern science, specifically this ancient DNA analysis, steps in to shed light on those supposedly lost histories.
Yeah, the brilliance of this study really hinges on those amazing cave granaries on Gran Canaria.
Because the preservation was so good.
Exceptional. The storage conditions meant that archaeological remains, like individual seeds and grains, were exceptionally well preserved. Not just physically, but critically. Their DNA stayed intact enough for detailed genetic analysis, even after 1,000 years.
Incredible. That's why they're calling them a gold mine.
It's exactly why. It's an invaluable resource for today's researchers.
Sounds like the study is pretty significant then.
Oh, absolutely. It marks the first ever successful genetic analysis carried out on archaeological lentil seeds. That's no small achievement.
Right.
And it also adds lentils to a very short, quite exclusive list of legumes that have yielded high-quality ancient DNA. I think corn and beans were studied before, but that's about it for legumes.
So it proves it can be done if the conditions are right.
Exactly. It proves that even delicate plant genetic material can survive for over a millennium. And this really broadens the scope for prehistoric crop studies, beyond just cereals like barley or wheat, which have usually been the focus because their DNA tends to be a bit more robust or better preserved.
Okay, so it opens up new avenues.
A whole new world of plant history, potentially.
So armed with this amazing preservation and the tech to analyze it, what did the researchers actually do? How did they approach it?
Well, they meticulously selected 14 ancient lentil seeds, all sourced from Gran Canaria, which covered this fascinating timeline from the 7th all the way up to the 20th century CE.
Wow, quite a span.
Yeah. Then they carefully compared the ancient DNA, or aDNA, as scientists call it, from these ancient seeds with 29 modern lentil varieties.
Modern ones from where?
Samples collected from the Canary Islands themselves and also from Morocco and mainland Spain for comparison.
Okay, so what were they trying to figure out?
They were essentially asking three big questions.
Yeah.
First, pretty fundamentally, can ancient DNA, aDNA, actually be successfully analyzed from legume remains found in these granaries? Spoiler. Yes, they proved it could.
It's start death.
Definitely. Second, do the lentils grown in the Canaries today share a genetic identity with these prehistoric ones? Which, if true, would indicate continuous cultivation, right?
An unbroken chain.
Exactly. And third, can we use the DNA to pinpoint the geographic origin of those very first lentils brought to the Canary Islands by those North African settlers? Where did they originally come from?
Right. Okay, so what did they find? Did they answer those questions?
They did, and the genetic analyses provided some incredibly clear, really compelling answers, especially to that second question about continuity.
Okay.
What really jumped out from the data was a striking genetic similarity between the archaeological lentils and the vast majority, really, most of the lentils cultivated on the archipelago today.
No way. So they're basically the same lentils.
Genetically, yes, very closely related. The researchers conclude this similarity can only be explained by what they term continuous cultivation of indigenous lentils on the Canary Islands.
That's amazing.
It is. It's a powerful revelation. It means most modern Canarian lentils are direct descendants of those brought over almost 2,000 years ago.
Wow.
And this finding is particularly strong because it mirrors what other studies found for ancient barley in the same region. It reinforces this idea of a deep, unbroken agricultural legacy that somehow persisted against pretty immense odds.
That is an incredible story of resilience for a tiny legume, but it makes you ask, why? Why did these lentils survive and keep their genetic identity when other crops might have faded or been replaced?
That's a great question, and the study offers two key theories, both pretty fascinating.
Okay.
The first, and maybe the most intuitive one, is that these ancient lentil varieties were just really well adapted to the local climate, specifically those hot and dry, often arid conditions you find across the islands. They were tough, basically built for it.
Makes sense. Survival of the fittest plant style.
Kinda, yeah. But the second theory is equally compelling, and it touches on deep social dynamics. The idea of a gendered division of agricultural responsibilities.
Ah, okay. How does that fit in?
Well, after the European conquest, indigenous women often married immigrant men. The study suggests these women might have been absolutely instrumental in managing, preserving, and inheriting the food crops for their families.
So they kept the original seeds going.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Much like historical accounts you see from places like Rwanda, for instance. And this isn't just a wild guess. It's supported by the fact that even today, Canarian women tend to show significantly more knowledge about family food crops than the men do.
That's fascinating. So the DNA evidence plus these ethnographic insights suggest women's roles, often overlooked in history, were critical for maintaining this heritage during huge upheaval.
Exactly. A contribution that rarely makes it into the standard written histories.
Right. What else did the DNA tell them? You mentioned isolation between the islands earlier.
Yes. And this lentil DNA dive also sheds light on that question of ancient travel, or lack thereof. Early European accounts often reported that the indigenous folks didn't really travel between islands much. And remarkably, the lentil DNA provides powerful biological backup for that historical observation. The genetic analyses revealed clear genetic differentiation, meaning their DNA had diverged enough over time to show distinct genetic lineages between different island groups. They found clear eastern and western groups among the present-day Canarian lentils.
Wow, so the lentils on different islands became genetically distinct.
That's right. This pattern strongly reflects that cultural and physical isolation that likely existed between the islands before the Hispanic period. Limited gene flow, limited seed exchange.
And that implies?
It implies that lentils were continuously cultivated even on islands where written records suggest that they might have been lost before the Europeans arrived. Places like La Palma and La Gomera in the west, and Lanzarote and Fuerteventura in the east. It fills in gaps where history was silent.
Okay, this next connection is wild, and it might even ring a bell for some listeners who've been to Spain. Have you ever seen Lenteja tipo Lanzarote type lentil in a supermarket there?
Ah, yes. Often marketed as a quality type.
Exactly. But the funny thing is, these lentils aren't actually produced on Lanzarote anymore.
Right.
However, the DNA evidence from this study now tentatively suggests that lentils from Lanzarote may, in fact, have contributed to the early development of Spanish lentil varieties, not only in name, but also genetically.
So the name isn't just a historical echo, it might reflect actual genetic contribution.
It seems possible, like a culinary ghost story written in DNA. And we actually have export records confirming significant trade of agricultural stuff, including pulses like lentils from the Canaries to mainland Spain starting around the 17th century.
That's amazing. It makes you wonder how much indigenous Canarian agricultural know-how and genetic diversity unknowingly flowed into European crops back then.
Right. Now, was everything clear-cut, or were there any surprises or anomalies in the genetics?
There was one interesting anomaly. The study also identified a distinct group 4 of Canarian lentils. Basically, a fourth genetic lineage that seems different.
Group 4. Different how?
It appears to be a more recent introduction, probably from an unknown source. The researchers couldn't pinpoint the exact origin or timing with the current data, but it definitely stands out.
So more recent arrivals mixed in.
Exactly. It highlights that crop genetics are always dynamic.
Yeah.
There's ongoing exchange, constantly shaping agricultural landscapes. It certainly leaves a neat little mystery for future research. Where did Group DF come from?
Interesting. And you mentioned barley studies earlier. How did the lentils compare to barley in terms of genetics?
That was another intriguing point. Compared to the ancient barley studied previously in the Canaries, these lentils showed significantly more genetic homogeneity within their respective groups, like the eastern or western groups.
More similar within groups. Why would that be?
The researchers suggest a possible economic reason. Barley was a heavily taxed and widely traded commodity, a cash crop, essentially. It was moved around between islands to the mainland, leading to more mixing of seed varieties. Lentils, on the other hand, were likely grown more for household use, for local subsistence, less widespread seed exchange.
So different uses led to different genetic patterns.
Potentially, yes.
Huh.
Less gene flow for lentils might have led to more isolated populations, contributing to that greater genetic similarity within their specific island groups. It sort of paints a picture of two different agricultural economies running side by side.
Fascinating. It really feels like this study shows how much we can learn from things we might otherwise overlook.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It truly demonstrates how understudied archaeological plant remains can reveal aspects of past cultures not documented in written records. It's just a powerful testament to how crop genomes act like living archives.
Living archives, I like that.
Yeah, preserving echoes of human cultural practices, societal changes, migrations, trade, everything, through time. They offer this invaluable, often silent, commentary on history, uncovering narratives that might otherwise stay completely hidden or misunderstood.
Reminds us that history is often written in the soil, not just on paper.
Beautifully put.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, okay, bring this back to today. What does all this mean for us now? beyond just understanding ancient history, is there a modern relevance?
Oh, hugely relevant. These ancient Canarian lentils, the ones that survived, meticulously honed by centuries of natural selection and human adaptation to those hot, dry conditions. They are incredibly valuable today.
Valuable how?
Well, think about climate change. It's increasingly impacting agriculture globally, right? Making conditions harsher in many places.
Yeah, definitely.
So the unique genetic diversity found in these ancient, resilient lentils could play a crucial role for the development of future lentil cultivars. They hold genetic keys to resilience.
Offering traits for drought tolerance, heat resistance, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Offering invaluable traits for developing more sustainable food solutions in our rapidly changing world. It's not just about understanding the past, it's genuinely about safeguarding our future food security.
Wow, so these ancient survivors might help feed the future.
That's the hope, and the potential is definitely there.
Okay. As we finish our deep dive today, maybe consider this. What other everyday foods sitting on your plate right now might hold millennia of hidden stories? Stories connecting you directly to the innovative farmers and the resilient cultures of the past, and maybe even shaping our future in ways we haven't even grasped yet.
Yeah.
It genuinely makes you look at a simple bowl of lentils a little differently, doesn't it?
It really does. Gives you a whole new appreciation.
Well, thank you for joining us on this fascinating journey into the genetic past and perhaps the vital future of the Canary Islands lentils. Until next time, keep digging deeper.